It's lovely. Fabulous. So we'll get cracking. So how can Governors for Schools support you? So I'll just give a brief overview about who we are and how we support people into these roles. So we're an education charity and we've been around for just over 25 years. So we celebrated our 25th anniversary in September just gone. And we've been around for 25 years to improve education through effective governance. So we support schools, trusts and local authorities across England and Wales with ensuring that they've got, diverse, talented and committed volunteers that are active in the board roles and supporting a school in transformation and long-term development plans. So we work with schools directly to understand their needs, and we ideally match volunteers to opportunities based on their preferences and their skill sets as well. So we aim to not only find volunteers with the right skills, but we also want to make sure that they're actually representative of the community and ensuring that the board is diverse, has people from all walks of life who can be there to advocate for the students, the staff, and really drive forward those positive changes by asking those vital questions in terms of school improvement. As you'll see on the screen, for example, so if you had a preference for wanting, you could want a primary within a 10-minute walk or a secondary within a 10-minute drive, you can check these preferences and we'll ensure that we find something that suits you and your skill set. So if a school is looking for, finance skills, for example, and they're within 10 minutes of you, they match all of your preferences, we'll send this opportunity across so you can review it, including, their Ofsted and some various information for you to review and see if it's a good fit for you. So you're allowed on our application, you can set as many preferences as you like, and then you can also include more preferences in the written text boxes if there's anything specific that you'd be looking for. So I will be going into what a chair does in a bit more detail, but as a nice overview for anyone who, we have some people who may have been a school governor before and some people who may not, who are looking to learn a little bit more about it. So the governor role is strategic rather than operational. So while they do, support the head teacher by challenging and championing them with the overseeing of the school, they're not there to look at the day-to-day running. They're there to look at the long-term goals, the performance, and put those strategies in place. So to make sure the school's moving in the right direction and are aware of their challenges and what needs to be put in place to rectify things and improve things. So they challenge the school's leadership to drive the school improvement, but they're also there to, as I say before, advocate for these students, advocate for the staff members, looking at well-being and mental health, all the way through to parent complaints and how the local community feels about the school, as well as obviously, the board in itself will have parent governors and staff governors and various people who bring those different perspectives that are really beneficial at looking at the holistic overview of what the school's going through, what successes they have, what challenges they have, and what needs to be put in place to make those changes. So obviously the board all work together as a collective group. Depending on the type of school, they'll most likely look at a bit of financial oversight, so looking at financial performance and budgets, including pupil premiums, for example. But that obviously does depend on the type of school. So mostly local authority schools will focus more on finances, but some trust schools do as well. In terms of what a chair of governors does, so similarly to obviously what I've just covered, they lead on the governance. So they're there to ensure that the governors aren't just filling seats and ticking boxes, but they're actually engaged with their role, whether they have link roles, for example. If you have a safeguarding background and you think you'd be a great safeguarding link governor, then that's a really great opportunity to develop skills and kind of liaise with the operational equal, so the designated safeguarding lead of the school, to look at the overall strategies and policies in place for safeguarding, for example. They're also there to facilitate those meetings, ensure that people stick to the agenda, but also they're there to ensure that people feel confident and comfortable speaking up, sharing their thoughtful, contributions, encouraging them to do their preparation ahead of time, look at the agenda and attached documents, look at the head teacher's report, look at data, and really come with ideas for change and thoughts throughout that, rather than obviously, coming and just opening the agenda at the meeting. They're also there to ensure that there's accountability. So that's both in the board and within the school. So ensuring there are accountability procedures on an operational side with the head teacher, but also there to ensure that the governors, they know their roles, they know what they're responsible for, and they're engaged and they're passionate in doing so. And then again, obviously as a group, but more so the chair leads on this, the strategic oversight, both long and short term. They're also there to engage various stakeholders. So for any educationists here, know that a school has millions of stakeholders, from the staff and the students to the parents and carers within the community. They're there to ensure that everyone can feed back, and they're there to ensure that everyone's perspectives and viewpoints are taken on board when they're looking at those changes for the school. So, what can you gain by being a chair of governors? A variety of different things, again, depending on what your passion is, what kind of role you want to get into, link role or a chairing role, what kind of relationships you want to develop with the local community. It's entirely up to you and your head teacher to see what that role would look like, fleshed out. But for the most part, it's obviously to transform school communities. So, to help the school with their long term strategies, to create a safe, warm, welcoming environment where the students are happy and secure and engaged with their learning, and that the staff can excel and be happy within their roles as well. Anyone here within education knows that having a high staff turnover leads to disinterested students, and it becomes a catch-22. So prioritizing mental well-being of staff, ensuring that they're satisfied in the role, that there's professional development opportunities and training that can keep them engaged, and also going up the career ladder as well, will help keep them engaged with the role, and obviously keep the students engaged with that one member of staff rather than having a turnover of agency staff, for example. Also to improve educational standards, so ensuring that there's an equal and level playing field for all students regardless of background or circumstance. They're there and they all have access to a high standard of education. That obviously includes looking at policies and things like that, but also looking at the curriculum. Is the school adhering to best practice, and looking at their academic performance data as well, and seeing what needs to be improved, whether it's reading, writing, what are the students struggling with, and how can the school budget, for example, maybe have more teaching assistants that can help students with English as a second language to support with the reading and writing side, for example. Also leadership skills, so obviously a chance to handle diverse viewpoints, bringing different people together, building consensus and navigating really complex challenges at times. So the role's a really great professional development opportunity for gaining those highly transferable skills and new knowledge from behind the curtain. So, we have some people here who may be educationists who are really up to speed with what's happening operationally and the challenges that are taking place daily. But it could be really beneficial to peek behind the curtain at the governance side and the long-term strategy side, to learn more about, the running of the school and the sustainability of schools as well moving forwards. Obviously, strategic thinking, so being able to hone your ability to think strategically, balancing the short and long-term goals together, as well as the needs of the community. Everyone knows that, one day in school could be completely different to the next. So sometimes it's difficult to implement those strategies whilst being aware of some challenges that may arise. So the governors are there to support the school with putting that in place. Networking opportunities is another one. So you'll be able to, work with people from all different walks of life and different sectors who you may never, cross paths with in any other way. So it's really great for you to come together with different individuals who all have the same passion to support the school, and bringing together different ideas, ways of thinking and backgrounds that can really benefit both the staff and student community. And obviously fulfillment. So, being able to give back to your local community in a rewarding role. That's satisfying. That's something that enables you to feel really great about the work that you're doing. You're having a positive impact, and you're using your time and your skills to really feed back to a school how they can improve and help them in that journey. So it's quite a beautiful thing overall. So in terms of expectations and commitments, so this is just a nice little overview. But as I said before, if you have any more questions about each one, please do email me and we can go in more detail for you. But overall, so we've done a survey of some chairs, and most chairs spend between 6 and 10 hours a month on the role. This can obviously differ depending on the school, the relationship with the head, and sometimes the time of year. So if a school knows they have an Ofsted coming up in the next month or two, then the chair may meet a bit more frequently with the head to gather on the clerk, for example, to gather the information they need, make sure that all of the questions Ofsted are going to ask about governance and strategy, that they can answer appropriately, and give them the documentation to support the efforts they've made to make those changes already in between the Ofsted inspections. Again, sometimes of year will be a lot quieter. So June, July, boards tend to have their last meeting of the academic year, can go a little bit quieter. Again, exams, less people in schools, certain times of year are different. Again, the relationship with the chair and the head is something that's vital for deciding the time commitment. Some heads like to have a brief phone call on a weekly basis. Some like to meet up in person for an hour once a month, and others may want to meet up only ahead of the full governor board meeting. So it's entirely up to you as chair and the head teacher to discuss how much time you can commit and what you'd be willing to do outside of the governor meetings, whether it's if you had availability to attend ad hoc meetings such as expulsion panels and things like that, that. But again, you do have a vice chair and other governors who can support with balancing those responsibilities out. In terms of the term of office, so the term of office for all governors, including chairs, is 4 years. Obviously, schools know that circumstances change, people move away, you have children, things happen. And so, it's not set in stone that you have to be there for 4 years. We ideally recommend that a minimum of 2 years is needed for you to really have an impact, really, get to grips with the role and develop those skills that you're looking to develop. So 4 years in total is the aim, obviously. And of course, if you love the role and really want to go on for another term, then yeah, most schools are very happy for you to put yourself forward to be a chair for another 4 years after that. So that's entirely up to you and how you're looking to go forward. In terms of liability, so I'll cover it briefly, and again, very happy for anybody to email me. So when you join a governing board, you're seen as a collective entity, basically. So your insurance policies and things, liability policies, cover you as a collective group. So all of the decisions and strategic oversight that you provide, it's seen as a collective group. So no one person is liable. So what that means is, if the board is found to not be supporting the school in a sufficient manner, then it's likely the whole board would be dismissed because they're jointly liable for the failure. The only way that any one person could be held liable is if they're found to have been acting against the law, so negligently, fraudulently. If they embezzled money from the school or something really severe, then they'd look at investigating that one person and obviously going forward the appropriate direction. And in terms of a bit of advice regarding liability, I mean, hopefully everyone here, will act genuinely with honest intentions and motives, and that's all you need to, worry about. So there's no need to worry about liability if you know that you'll be acting in the best interest of the school and are going to be working well with the rest of the governors as well. If there are ever any kind of financial losses or debt from the school, poor financial kind of oversight, then the school will have their own insurance policies to cover that money. So governors are never personally liable for the debts of the school. Which is handy to know. Lovely. So this is a top tip that's been provided by our CEO of Governors for Schools, Hannah Stolton. She's the chair of governors at Nasing Primary School in Essex. And her main bit of advice is that the role is all about relationships with various different stakeholders, as I mentioned before. So a relationship with the head teacher, being able to, challenge them and champion them appropriately, work well with them on a professional basis, sometimes be a bit of a sounding board for ideas, a bit of a back and forth. So it's really important that communication between the chair and the head is probably one of the most vital aspects. The vice chair as well, so somebody that you can share the workload with, somebody who can make themselves available if you're not able to attend a meeting or a panel, for example. That will, again, be a critical friend within the role, somebody who can balance out the role alongside you and, again, support the rest of the governors with building confidence in their role and getting the access to the support that they need. Obviously, the clerk and governance professionals, so depending on the school, you may have a governance manager within a trust or a clerking service through the local authority. So these people, either way, are very knowledgeable governance professionals. So they're there to provide knowledge, expertise, but to also signpost you to any relevant resources that would be handy for you. The board as well as an overview, so being able to communicate with all of your governors and build rapport with them all, understanding what their motives are. Why did you want this role? What makes you passionate about it? What are you looking to gain from it? Again, looking at what kind of governor they are. Are they a parent governor? Are they a staff governor? Will bias come into play in certain instances that they may have to take off their parent hat and put on their governor hat, for example? And again, be there as a leader to motivate and inspire them, and again, support with ensuring that they're doing relevant training and supporting anything and getting support for anything they need, really. The staff and parents, again, as I mentioned earlier, so the staff doesn't just include teachers, but it's the office staff, it's the teaching assistants, it's the lunch staff, it's the groundskeepers. These are all vital people who their feedback's important for how the school's being run. So never underestimate what one person can bring ideas wise, to the strategic oversight of the school. So never not listen to anybody, basically. And the parents as well. Obviously, parents can make complaints. Complaints are on a rise right now after COVID, we have seen. But it's important to make sure that they're listened to and that they are taken seriously and that the complaints committees, handle these appropriately. But again, the parent body can be a really great resource for ideas, engaging with the local community and getting support from them as well. And again, the sources of support, so things like iGovs, which our lovely speaker Pat is from, as well as Governor Hub and various different online support systems that are available for governors. So it's all about relationships. It's all about cultivating these, communicating clearly, and making sure that everyone understands the role that they're in and have the support that they need. Lovely. So in terms of the next steps, so if you're curious more about kind of, how can you consider the role? What info will you get to look into the role deeper before maybe meeting the head teacher and taking things a step further? So we, again, as I said before, you can set preferences, and obviously we look at your skill sets and job roles, and obviously your background in terms of if you've had previous board experience, where your skills lie, to try and match you up with a school that's really going to benefit not just you, but the school itself. So we're there to ensure that your skills and preferences are set up, and then we can match you with ones that suit. Obviously, if you have specific requirements, maybe if you wanted a secondary that was walkable, but there's only one or two within the area and their boards are full at this current time, then it may take a little bit longer for us to find the right opportunity. But we'll always keep you updated throughout the entire journey when we have roles for you to consider. And also there's plenty of webinars and different things to keep engaged with while you're searching for a role. When we send you a role, you can obviously look through the Ofsted report and any information that we send you, which is quite handy. So we usually send a nice overview of their governance structure, what times they meet, how often they meet, and the current challenges that they're going through as well. You have a chance to look through that, and then afterwards, if it interests you, we can have a call to discuss in more detail, and I can make sure that I answer any of your questions, and any that I don't know offhand, I'll always go back to the school and try and find out directly for you. Obviously, that call is really key for you to learn more about the role, really get to grips with any questions that you have, and then obviously I can signpost you to any other relevant information afterwards. So after the call, I can send you things like their performance data, their financial benchmarking, schemes of delegations, which are really handy for breaking down, what remits the governors have versus the chair, the head, the trustees of a trust, and things like that, as well as school policies and any other handy info that would be handy for you to review before going to see the school in person. After that, we send your application across to the school should you wish to go forward and support in organising a school tour. So that's obviously, again, meeting the head teacher is very vital for a chair to decide whether it's the right opportunity for them. Do I feel like I can appropriately challenge and champion them? Can we have a great working relationship? Learn more about what is their vision as the head teacher? Where do they envision the school going in the next few years? What are the main challenges right now? What have the successes been? And really getting to know that head teacher on a deeper level to see if you can work well together for the next 4 years. And obviously any other key stakeholders as well. So meeting the outgoing chairs, always very beneficial for a handover, getting to know some of the other governors and networking with them before making any decisions about joining the board or being put forward for appointment or anything like that. So we like to make sure that you have as many opportunities as you need to consider it in detail before making any decisions. We don't want you to make the decision lightly. We want to make sure that the role is right for you. And if it's not, then come back to us and we'll continue searching until we find one that is. So that's good to know. And in terms of the kind of training, support and mentorship, so there's a lot on offer really. So obviously us at Governors for Schools, we have a variety of different resources online. So we have our e-learning modules and we have a variety of different webinars throughout the year, training, blogs and newsletters to keep people up to speed with changes within the education sector. That's really handy. And then obviously Governor Hub Knowledge. So when you're appointed, you get 12 months free access to Governor Hub Knowledge through us. So they're a really great partner of ours. They have thousands of helpful articles. They have a support network, so you can obviously ask questions and get advice. And it's really a nice platform to gain confidence in your decisions as a chair, and maybe discuss with other chairs what they've tried in the past that could be transferable to your school. And then finally, iGovs, which our guest speaker Pat is from, is an incredible organisation. So they do chairing mentorships and training and support, and are run by a variety of different volunteers, all who have extensive education and governance experience. So Pat, for example, has been a chair in the past, has been a governance professional and an educationist, so really understands the challenges that schools are facing, and will hopefully give us a really nice overview of what she's gained in various roles and advice for moving forwards with the chair role should you wish to. So in terms of how to apply and things like that, so you can register on our website and obviously fill in the preferences and things like that, which are quite handy. The application includes a brief personal statement, just a chance to introduce yourself. It's the first thing the school will read about you. So it could be anything from what you're passionate about, what your professional background is, what you're looking to gain in this kind of role, any other voluntary experience that you think could be handy to mention. So it's entirely up to you how you would like to portray yourself to the school in the first instance before before meeting them in person. You can also fill out the skills matrix, so variety of different skills that you can tick from basic to extensive. That's really handy for seeing where your skills lie and what opportunities may be a good match for you. So obviously, if you have any questions about that and you're not sure whether you constitute as extensive versus moderate, maybe, then I'm happy to discuss that with you to make sure that you can, fill it in honestly, whilst also maybe, not being too humble. We all have skills to give, so it's important that we recognize what we're able to offer. I know that can be difficult sometimes, but it's still really handy to have, honest information when going forwards with looking at roles. And then, as you can see on the other part of the screen, a variety of some of our e-learning modules. So we have some basic overviews about intro to governance and sharing advice, but then some more niche ones as well, like if you were becoming a chair of a SEND school, or have never worked with SEND schools and want to learn more about it, that's really handy. Avoiding exclusions is one of the big ones right now, because we are again seeing behavioural issues and exclusions on the rise in the past few years. So governors are looking at, deeply at that right now. And again, well-being culture. So looking at making sure the school is a warm, welcoming environment where both the staff and students are happy to be there and they can all respect each other and feel safe in their mission going forwards. Obviously, if you were specifically interested in sharing roles, then just make a note in the personal statement, and then obviously we'll know to only send you those roles going forward, which is handy. Lovely. So now it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Pat Barber. She's a very experienced chair and governance professional. She's also one of the main mentors through iGovs, as I mentioned. So Pat will discuss her own experiences in the role in a bit more detail, and we'll also hopefully, if you become appointed, you might see her in the future as your mentor. Who knows? So take it away, Pat. Thank you. Oh, you're on mute, Pat. Sorry. There we go.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the session. And I hope that's the only time somebody has to tell me I'm on mute. A case of trying to stop me talking rather than anything else. So when I was preparing for this session, it became very apparent to me just how long I have actually been doing it. And this is actually my 40th year of being involved in school governance, which is crazy, really. I started when my own children started primary school, and it was in the middle 80s. And from there, it was just prior to them introducing the new Education Act, which was a huge change, where it took us from being led by central government, in my case it was the Inner London Education Authority, and to putting those responsibilities to a more local level and allowing schools to be more in control with the autonomy over their budgets and decision making. So it was a huge change in governance at that time. Since then, and bringing you up to date, I have been so involved in governance that I used to say it was my hobby, but I actually did have a full-time job. I was a school business manager. I've also worked in HR and with accounts as well. So I've got quite a bit of experience that I brought to the role, but they actually dovetailed each other, because I worked and I've been a governor during that time, now actually retired and a full-time governor. And I was part of the initial National Leader of Governance programme when that was first introduced. But you probably are not aware, unless you've been involved in governance, but the central government stopped the funding for that programme, and it was taken on board by the National Governors Association, but it was only for paid support that they were providing. And a group of us that had been NLGs for some time actually wanted to be here to support people like ourselves that were giving up their own time and would just need a little bit of support in taking on the role. So we set up iGovs. We have 34 members now. They have all been ex-national leaders of governance, and they've been in the chair role at some time or other. So they're all highly experienced people across the country. And because now how everything's changed and how we communicate with each other since COVID, we can actually support people all over. And as I have done, and have a couple of people on the go at the moment that are nowhere near where I live, but we talk regularly. They phone me, I phone them, and we keep in touch. So and alongside all of that, I actually prepare training and deliver training to governors. I'm a coach and a mentor to a number of governance, and I actually still, because this is where I started, after I took on my parent governor role, I was asked by the local authority if I would consider becoming a clerk, as they were known then. So I did. I became the clerk to schools, and some of those schools I'm actually still with. So it's been a long journey with the schools, and you get so attached to them that it becomes difficult to leave them. But hey ho, I used to have 15 schools, believe it or not. I do not now. I'm back down to 3. So it's progress. I have said no, which is something I have difficulty saying. It's the most hardest word to say to somebody, no. So I tend to say yes. So what have I learned from it? Huge amount, a huge amount. The boxes are really the main things that I have learnt myself. The other are just touching on some of the things where I have got involved in through my chairship. The relationships, it's just incredible. Why do I do it? Because it's the children, and I love the children. Yes, I have to do training. Yes, I deliver training. Yes, I attend training, and I still keep myself up to date with training. So I'm not so arrogant to think that I know everything, but I keep myself up to date, and it's really important that you do. But from governance, don't think you're going to be like me. I don't want anybody to be like me. I want you to do what you're able to do when you can. You've got to be sensible about this. It was less intrusive years ago when I first started, and I had my young family to raise. Less intrusive then as what it is now. It's quite a lot involved with some responsibilities, but you build up a good team. You need to have great relationships with your head teacher, and that is important. And if there is no relationship there, it's not going to work. And I think you need to be brave to say, I think I need to move on. Because if it doesn't work with those 2 main people, then it's never going to work, and you'll be fighting all the way. So that is a real important thing. And that meeting, as Enya was saying at the beginning, about meeting with the head first, that's when you'll realize whether you can work with this person or not. So just be brave, just be brave. It's no good struggling, because that's not going to help the children. And I think if you're listening to this now and you're thinking about governance, you're actually thinking about children and being able to support them in how they receive their education. And of course, it's all changing. It is constantly changing. And we have to keep up to date to make sure that we have the up-to-date information to support the schools. I put toilets on there. Sorry, that's a bit of a joke, because every meeting you go to, somebody wants to talk about toilets, believe me. So it's not a joke. You're always talking about toilets at some meetings. But the rest of them are educational healthcare plans. I had no idea, and some of you may not know, these are special plans that the school have to prepare for. Normally takes about 18 months for them to prepare to apply for one for a child, and these are children with specific needs. Money's very, very tight and getting tighter, and they're very hard to get, but I know all about them now, and something you will learn very quickly. Similarly with safeguarding, I am the safeguarding lead in most of my schools. It's something I've had a passion about, and I think it's really important. But that's when you'll have to make yourself available, because things do happen in schools. They're big establishments, especially in the secondary schools. And when something happens, the teacher needs somebody to talk. The head teacher wants to talk to somebody, and who's the person they turn to is the chair of governors. So it's about making yourself available at the times that they need to speak too, because it's something that can't be left, especially around the safeguarding. If it's about budget, if it's about curriculum, yes, it can wait for 24 hours, but safeguarding, afraid not. So you just need to make yourself available. But the feedback, I think the rewards from attending school walks, if you go on a learning walk with the school and you talk to the children, they are so passionate about their learning and so eager to talk to you that you don't want to come out of the classroom. And actually, for me, I've also sat in on history lessons in secondary schools, and it's so enjoyable, where they've got them set up in a court of law, and they're talking to each other and against the sides, and it's incredible how they manage all of this in the lesson. And I'm just there as an observer, supposed to be writing things, and just totally absorbed in the lesson. So it is fascinating to see how learning happens now, especially with digital learning as well, and keeping them safe online is a huge part of the role of governance, not from a strategic route. The other thing I just wanted to say about being a chair, though, you have to remember is that you are the first among equals. So you have no responsibilities beyond that of every other governor, except if there's an emergency, when you do have actually the power to make a decision if you cannot contact any other governor. But you are just one amongst many. So building that team, and you need to make sure your team has as wide a range of skills as possible, because that makes the work far easier, it is huge for you. It is a huge job to do, but because there's not so many people, unfortunately, now that have the time, people's lives have changed, how parents work, and the time they have to give up is difficult. So I'm not going to say it's going to be an easy job, but it's such a rewarding job. It really is rewarding. On my list of on my next slide, and yeah, if you could turn it on, what do I need to give as a governor? These are the two main things. It's time and it's commitment. Doing it half-heartedly is not going to be beneficial to anyone. If you haven't got the time, then consider staying as a governor, or you can actually become an associate governor and just attend a board meeting to share your skills and experiences or knowledge from your own work base, or and that therefore you wouldn't have to commit to attending all of the meetings. It might just be, if you're a finance person, you just went to the resources committee, which probably be about 3 meetings a term. But I think if you wanted to try that way, it's one way of starting, but you have to recognize the commitment and the time that you need to give. It's so important. As I say, it's not a half-hearted job. But on the next slide, and yeah, this is what I have got, and it's just a snapshot of the things that I've got, of having that opportunity of shaping children's future, because you're making decisions about where you're going to spend the money, and by spending that money, you're shaping the children's future, believe it or not. You might not feel it sometimes. It's working in a team of people, so it's not a lone decision-making process. It is a collective decision-making process. But I think we all have this glossy-eyed view that everybody's children have the same sort of lives as we're able to give our children, and unfortunately it's not the case. So having that opportunity where you can make small improvements in children's learning and opportunities is huge. It's huge. It's a gift, I think, for me, that I can actually enable children to go to the theatre. These are secondary school children that have never seen the inside of a theatre. And when you take them in, and I have actually had this opportunity to go with some children, it's just, it just brought tears to my eyes, to be honest. I'm going to be totally honest, because they were overawed by how many seats were in the theatre, how big it was, how tall it was, and the circle upstairs, who sits up there. It was all these sort of questions they were asking. And this was all because the governors have made a decision to earmark some funding to take them to the pantomime. They're the sort of decisions that, through the decision making, you can shape those children's lives. So I think I should be giving up, but I'm not. I do enjoy what I do, thoroughly enjoy what I do, and I will do it for as long as I possibly can. So I can't recommend the benefits to yourself from taking on this role. With iGovs, we will always be there for you. So you've only got to make the call, and Governors for Schools can put you in touch with us and give you that information. And there will always, and I say this because we've never let anybody down yet, be somebody there to help you. Maybe me, it may be somebody else. Happy to support anybody, happy to answer anybody's questions. So yeah, somebody will always be there. And you might think it's a very lonely place sometimes, but believe me, there's always somebody else that's gone through what you're going through. Sometimes you just want to share it or offload to somebody. That's what we're here for. So, you know, I've had people phone me, and I'll be honest about this, at 9:30 at night, because they've come out of a meeting and it's been so upsetting. They haven't been able to drive home, so they phone me. Fine, I'll talk to you. I'm happy. I'm happy to do that. I've been there. I know what that feels like. So yeah, it's but I do recommend it.
That was incredibly beautifully well put. Thank you so much, Pat. And I think, yeah, I think a lot of people here, if they are educationalists, probably wish they could copy and paste you so that you can be in every school in the country. Because yeah, your passion is infectious. And thank you so much for your time and everything that you've done within the education sector over the last 40 years. I hope you feel incredibly rewarded because you've probably impacted hundreds of thousands of students over your career. So I hope that you feel grateful for the opportunities you've had, but I hope those schools also feel incredibly grateful for getting time with you and having your expertise and your passion on their boards as well. So yeah, thank you so much for going through your
No, you're more
experience
than
in more
welcome.
detail.
We just
And yeah,
wish
I can.
everyone the best of luck.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, as Pat said, iGovs is an incredible resource. We've had people have, unique challenges in governing board meetings, come to us, drop us an email saying, I really need support with X, Y, and Z immediately, pop them in touch with iGovs, and someone has called them an hour later. So, they are there to really make sure that you feel confident, comfortable in your role, and that you are able to make appropriate, confident decisions that are what's best for the school, but also for you and your mental well-being. If there's consistent challenges that are putting a strain on your personal life or your mental health, then iGovs, will probably recommend taking a step back for a little while. Why don't you take a governor role and someone else can step up as chair, for example? Being able to recognise, actually, I'm burning out. That's not what's best for the school. The school deserves somebody with the time and energy to do the role well. They're there to be, advise you, to give you, empowerment as well. If you're feeling not good enough for the role, you think, oh, I don't have the skills that that they need, or I don't feel confident enough in my leadership abilities, then iGovs are there to say, actually, you are. We can see that already. You're doing an incredible job. Here are some helpful tips for cultivating relationships with your board. Being able to make those difficult decisions and communicate them clearly. They're there to be able to support with that. So yeah, so thank you so much, Pat. That was really, really, really wonderful. And as I said before, I'll go to the last slide if it loads. Yep, lovely. So as I said before, my email's there. So please do feel free to drop me an email with any questions if you want to have a call to discuss things in more detail. And our website's there as well. So just governorsforschools.org.uk to have a look through, a little bit more about us, the work we do, and our application form as well. If you wanted to register and start looking at some roles, then that's absolutely fine. Obviously, we do tend to have a lot more governor roles than chair roles, but chair roles do arise across the entire country. So, that could be a really great match for you in the next few months. It could be a bit of a wait for the right role, depending on what your preferences are. But again, as I said before, we aim to make sure that no matter how long it takes, we find a role that suits you, suits your time commitment, suits your skills, where you live, everything like that. So yeah, we like to think that you leave it with us, and we hopefully find something that's a really great fit for you and prepare you in advance for considering the role in more detail before making any decisions. And then obviously the training too. But thank you so much for everybody who's attended, and I wish you a really lovely evening. And thank you again, Pat, for joining. It's been wonderful
Okay, I was just going to say, if anybody wants to talk to me direct, I'm happy to take calls if you go through Enya, and then she'll pass on your details to me,
Yep,
and I will be more than happy to talk to you.
that's great. Thank you so much, Pat. I do wish I could clone you, but I think you're busy enough. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for attending. And yeah, my metaphorical door is open, so come and drop me an email whenever you like. Have a lovely evening, everybody. Take care for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Gosh, lots of thank yous coming up.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, everybody. We hope that this has been informative. Yeah, the recording will be sent around in the next day or two. But again, drop me an email if you need anything. Have a lovely evening. Thank you so much.